Good morning again, dear friends, and welcome. It's really a joy to greet you today and to share the teachings and the words, the inspiration of Paramahansa Yoganandaji. That was a beautiful poem. Thank you, Shamini. And also from Metaphysical Meditations, those were Paramahansa Yoganandaji's words on peace, read by Swami Kriyanandaji. I'd like to begin today with a very brief reading from the Essence of Self-Realization. In the astral world, the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. In the astral world, both angels, devas, and demons, asuras, exist. They are attracted to their own kind among human beings. Angels go where goodness is predominant and where they can inspire people with heavenly thoughts. Thoughts, Yogananda wrote in Autobiography of a Yogi, are universally and not individually rooted. Inspirations are not created. They must be invited. Acts of hatred and violence are a sign of man's openness to demonic forces, and not by any means initiated only by human beings themselves. The great masters who come rarely, alas, on earth, do so in response not only to need, but to humanity's consciousness of that need. Once here, they try, within the strictures of divine law, to be of universal help. The topic for today is receiving inspiration, the infinite inspiration that's all around us. And as we were this morning meditating together, listening and chanting along, listening to the readings, uplifting our consciousness, you could feel and you could sense a very profound presence of God and the masters, of their light surrounding us and protecting us as we did that affirmation, of their thoughts coming into our consciousness, of their joy coming into our hearts and uplifting us, of their light enveloping us. And this is what we want to do every day, and how a devotee, a disciple, always wants to live in attunement with inspiration, in attunement with the infinite consciousness of the divine. I was remembering a story just now of a young boy his mother was a disciple of Master, and this boy was living there also at Mount Washington. And one day he had an accident and he lost one of his fingers. And Master said, very interestingly, he said, I could see a dark cloud around you. And that's why that accident happened. And for all of us, we want to remove that dark cloud. We want to uplift ourselves in the light so that we can bring inspiration. We can bring insights, answers into our lives. We can be successful at whatever we're doing. We can draw ideas from the infinite, from the thoughts of God. We can be prosperous and have abundance because we're in attunement with the divine consciousness, with the divine light, with divine inspiration, with the infinite power of God. And if you look through different sources, you will see that those who were great in art, great in music, great in poetry, great in anything that they were attuning to or discovering or inventing, that they had an uplifted consciousness. It's like they uplifted their antenna. They made themselves an attunement, like on a radio. If you're not quite in tune with the station, then there's static. But if you can tune yourself in, there's the beautiful music, the beautiful, for devotees, the beautiful sound of Om, the wondrous light of God that comes to you, the beautiful ideas and thoughts and inspirations. And I remember how someone asked Master if uh, inspiration could be drawn at will. And he said, yes, take down this poem. Isn't that a wonderful thought? And he wrote one of the poems that are in the book Whispers from Eternity that Shamini read from. And someone who was going through that book told Yoganandaji, these are all such beautiful poems, but there's one that's so inspiring and uplifting to me. And it was that poem that he wrote at will like that. Another very interesting thing about Yoganandaji is his poem Samadhi, which isn't a poem, it's his experience of what he experienced in that state of ecstasy and oneness and union with God. Master said, Yoganandaji, that he wrote that poem not in the Himalayas in a cave, not away from the city. He wrote it in New York City on the subway. He was sitting there and he said, the conductor man taking your ticket was walking back and forth, and he never took my ticket, and he said, in fact, he never saw me. And so he was in some exalted state where he could attune to God and bring those beautiful words that you can find in Whispers from Eternity. You can find them in Master's book, of course, Autobiography of a Yogi. You can find them in The New Path. And so inspiration comes to those who can lift themselves up to it. And I was remembering the stories, because I love stories on inspiration and how if we can just tune ourselves. And I was reading, remembering stories of some of the great Western musicians, and like Mozart and Brahms and Beethoven and various ones, and I'm sure they're equivalent ones here in India. And there's a beautiful book called Talks with Great Composers. And many of the stories about those composers, they speak of them being in a very uplifted trance-like state. And that some of them saw in that trance-like state, they saw the music, like I believe it was Mozart. He would just see the notes, and he never had to make any changes to his music because it all came from a divine realm. And the same, another would hear the music. And I can attest to that by Swami Kriyanandaji's life as well, because he would say, there's music all around. I don't know why people don't hear it. And one day he wrote 30 melodies in one day. He would have a little recorder. In those days, you had a little recorder you could take around, and he would whistle the tunes in the recorder to remember them. But he was in a very exalted state because he lifted his consciousness up to reach. He wasn't creating, he was receiving. And the same with Einstein. It was said that Einstein, when he when he discovered the law of relativity, it came to him in a flash. And that was what a marvelous thought, that it wasn't mental, it was there. And he captured that. It took him, Swamiji told us, 10 years to be able to explain it to others. But it came to him in that way. And another wonderful thing about Einstein, which many people don't know, is that he also really enjoyed music, and he played the violin. And he said that it was said that he never traveled anywhere uh, without his beloved violin. And he would play the violin to be able to balance his consciousness and help him to be uplifted, to be able to feel. In that feeling, in that receptivity, he was able to draw inspiration. And also, there's beautiful stories on George Washington Carver, Luther Burbank. They were all, and Burbank was a Kriyaban. He was a disciple of Master, and Master visited him, and he would tell him I'm experimenting with these plants, and he would be able to tell these will make it and these won't. And some people would say, well, I bet I can make those plants grow, the ones who won't. He said, okay, you can take them. And they wouldn't grow because he intuitively would just know, because he was in higher communion that these will grow and these won't. And George Washington Carver would go out in the mornings, and early morning he would rise, and I believe he had some kind of stillness or silence or meditation, because he would say that he was very spiritual. He said that he would tune to God, then he would go out in the garden, and he said he would talk to the flowers, and he would say, tell me your secrets. And he would listen. And I think this is the biggest problem with people. People don't listen. He said he would listen, and he would just feel, this is what I do in this circumstance. This is what I do with this flower and this plant. And he discovered 300 ways to use the humble peanut from listening. And so this has been shown that from people on the path, people not on the path particularly, all you have to do is read the lives of the saints and see how much in attunement they had to become before they could really deeply be in the presence of God. And Master said to send your thoughts, your inspiration or your prayer out through the spiritual eye, and then to sensitively feel in the heart the response, the answer, the blessing, the grace of God. Now that brings us to another point, that surely there's inspiration all around, but not everybody can capture that. How do we capture that? And I remember one time when I was going through a difficult period in my life. There are periods come and go, everyone goes through them. But I was inwardly and outwardly in my meditation asking Yoganandaji, why are things so terrible? Everything's a mess right now. And then I thought of my friends, they're having a hard time, and these people are having a hard time. And the response I felt inside from Yoganandaji was, what channel or what station are you tuning to? And this is really the point, isn't it? What channel are we on? And what station are we attuned to? And Master would sometimes go to a movie theater with the disciples, and he would sit through the movie and his eyes wouldn't be open. And they would say, they'd tap him and say, Guruji, aren't you watching the movie? And he would say, yes, I'm watching the big movie. And he was trying to show us that yes, things look bad. Yes, things can be bad, but lift your gaze up. If thine eye be single, it says in the Bible, thy whole body will be filled with light. If you can put your gaze upward, then, and Master showed that. One time he had a wishing well that fell on his foot, and he was just grimacing. It was at Mount Washington, and he he was just grimacing, and he said, but I'm going to show you, if I lift my consciousness up, then I won't feel that pain. And this is the point for all of us. This is the main point. And these times, if we can lift our consciousness up, we won't feel as much pain or pain at all. And so he showed them, he lifted his consciousness up, and he was just normal. Then he said, I'm going to show you when I bring my consciousness back just into this little body. And he did that, and it was in so much pain. And so he would show that if the answer is lifting up, lift thine eyes up, thy gaze up to God, and draw the inspiration. And so, but we have to do our part. This is the point. Inspiration's always there. God is always there. Guru's voice is always whispering, talking to us. I remember one time I was new on the path, very new, and I had this dream of Yoganandaji. And I just thought that was fantastic. Very, very brief. I mean, it was like a flash. But what he was saying was very interesting, because those are the days when you had to get up early, like 5 o'clock, and go down. I lived in the ashram of Ananda in San Francisco. You had to go downstairs to the basement and meditate. And I had never gotten up that hour before. It was a discipline of the ashram. And I've since learned, and it's not a problem for me at all to wake up early, but I wasn't getting up early all the time then. And, anyway, you understand the story. Not many people were at the sadhana, in other words. But then I remember I had this dream. It was like a flash. And Yoganandaji's face was there. And he was talking to me. And he says, I have something to give you, but you're asleep. And I woke up and I thought, I just can't sleep my life through. I have to wake up. I have to be awake and ready. And that's the point. He said, I'm trying to help you, but you're asleep. I'm trying to help you, but your energy's down. I can't keep reaching down and here's the answers. Here's the solution. Here, let me give you. He said, you have to lift yourself up. And then you have to put out the energy. I remember one time Swami Kriyanandaji said that he was giving a lecture, and Master, he was a disciple. Master always told them, pray to God and let God do it through you. And so he said, okay, this was after he had been lecturing for a little while. He said, okay, I'm going to, at this lecture, I'm going to stop talking and just let God do it. So he stopped talking in the middle of his lecture. And half a minute, he didn't talk. He just stood there. And he said, and I just waited. And I waited for God to talk. Then I kept waiting, and a minute passed by. He said, I just kept waiting in my mind, saying, come on, say something. Say something. I know you can talk through me. Nothing happened. 2 minutes passed by. And did God speak through him? He had to do the work. And then God could speak through him. So we can't just say something's going to happen, something's going to happen. I know it's not going to happen until we put the energy out ourselves. And so Master said, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy, and the greater the magnetism, then the greater the inspiration. And also, I will reason, I will, I will act, but guide thou, meaning God, you guide my reason, will, and activity in every action. And there was a disciple who said to Yoganandaji, oh, Master, you can do these things. I can't do them, and you can do them because you're a master. And that's a cop-out. People say that you can do it. You've been on the path this long. You've been doing this. And Master's reply was, what do you think made me a master? He said, by doing. And he said, you can become that too. And that is the point. And another disciple said, oh, Guruji, I can't do it. I mean, there's always excuse after excuse after excuse. He said, I can't do it because I need your blessing. And Master said, listen, God's blessing's there. My blessing's there. Your blessing is what's missing. And so, yes, we can turn our lives around. We can change our destiny. We can change our karma. We can draw in high inspiration. We can lift ourselves up. We can go into deep states. We can get out of this lifetime and get free. But we have to meet God halfway. It's only a quarter of it is our efforts, 25%. Master said is your efforts. Only that, but you have to put everything into that. You can't sit there with your feet on the table saying 25%. Oh yeah, 25%. 25% is Master's good karma. His efforts helping the disciple. 50% is God's grace. And so we have to draw on that though. You have to be magnetic enough and energetic enough and interested enough and enthusiastic enough and moving enough to get off the couch and get moving to draw that 75%. It doesn't come easily. It doesn't come easily. And I was remembering the story of Master and how he himself, he was in America. He didn't know anybody, but one of the masters said, victory is written on your brow. And he had that consciousness of victory, being victorious. And his guru said, his blessing was with him, he said, it is now or never. And Master, even on the ship, he was going over, and some of the people there, they saw he was a Swami, and they said, Swamiji, can you give us a talk on how to fight the battle of life? And Master said, I mean, he could barely speak English. He says, yes, you've got to love that, yes. So he said they wanted to talk on the battle of life, but he was battling on how he was going to give that talk the whole time. But he appears for the talk for everybody who's on the ship going from India to America. And he stands there and no words come. And he can't get the language, English, coming through him. And he just inwardly is praying to his master. He's praying to him. And Swami Shri Teswarji's right with him. And we've got to remember, Master is right with us, just like Krishna was right with Arjuna. He says, you must fight, you must do it. The Swami Shri Teswarji in Master's mind, he could hear him saying, speak, speak, you can do it. And this is what you want to align yourself with the Guru and everything. You can do it. You can meditate. You can get up. You can change your bad habits. You can be successful. You can have abundance, whatever it is. Yes, you can. And Master started speaking, and he spoke for, I think it was 45 minutes. And afterwards they said, that was a powerful speech. He said he was asking them, what did he say? Because he didn't really know what all he said, because it just flowed through him, that infinite power and inspiration of God through his guru, through him as a channel. And that's how he went into America. And he went there and he changed the whole consciousness of the country to becoming much more spiritual and planted the seeds of inspiration for all of us, all the people in the whole world who have gained from that. And I was remembering the time when he was getting his first ashram there, Mount Washington, the headquarters. It cost a lot of money in those days. This was in probably the late 20s, I believe, maybe the mid 20s, in Los Angeles. And Master, he had, believe me, he had seen these places in his mind. He saw that place, he saw another place on the beach area, he saw another place. And so when he got to this place, he said, stop the car. And he gets out and he walks through the gate, and the people kept saying, who are with him, you can't go in there. He said, I'm going. He goes in and he says, this place feels like home. And they go, you've got to come out of there. That's private property. Master invites the students to come. Then he says, this place is yours. After a short time, this place is yours. And he doesn't have the place at all. Then he finds out how much it costs, an enormous amount of money for those days. And one of the students said, it's going to take you 20 years to get that kind of money. And he says, 20 years? For those who think 20 years. He needed the money in 3 months. He said 3 years for those who think 3 years. And 3 months for those who think 3 months. Did he get the money in 3 months? Of course he did. He said, I was battling with Divine Mother. How are you going to help me? How are you going to help me get what I need to get this place? So he didn't sit there and say, I hope somebody comes along. He said, I was battling with Divine Mother. I did everything in my power. He was fundraising himself for that, the guru. Did he get it up to just a lady at the very end? He said he needed, I think it was $5,000 more. And other people were wanting to buy the place. And he kept saying, no, we'll have enough. And Divine Mother, at the very end, he said a wind came across my face and pointed me to someone's name on this register or book that he had. And he called that lady. And Swamiji later said that was Om, that Divine Mother came to him through Om and said, call her. He called her and she came and they got the place. And this is, you've got to know, you've got to be inspired. This is a life of inspiration. You can choose. You want to be in the darkness and have a dark cloud over you? Stand over in the dark. If you want to have the light, you want to have the power of the masters behind you, their inspirations, you want to feel God's power, using the teachings, meditating, using the techniques, using the books, listening to the music, chanting like this beautiful chanting today, joy, joy, ever new joy. I mean, we will, in times ahead, look back at these times and say how much we grew, how much more in attunement we got, how much more uplifted we got, how much more inspired we've got, how much more of God's infinite power we felt and we drew down to ourselves, to our guru bhais, to our families, because God's protective light was around us from what we did, from our attunement and getting on to the right station and the right channel. And so for inspiration and drawing from the infinite, lift your antenna up, keep it up. If you feel energy dropping down, get up and march in place. Say, I'm awake and ready. I'm awake and ready. Do some yoga postures, do a pranayam, get out a book, open any page, look at it. Read a paragraph from Master's books, Swamiji's books, put on Swamiji's music all around your house. Play it all the time. Be online like this, have satsang, and you will feel God's presence, His inspiration, His joy, His love is with me. And it's with me all the time. God bless you. Let us hear this beautiful song now of Swami Kriyanandaji's Dark Eyes, which Master had talked about when he lost his mother, that he would see this pair of dark eyes around him, which was the eyes of his mother, but really the eyes of the Divine Mother. Let us hear this beautiful song now, then we'll do an arati.
I've known them forever, they've haunted my slumber and called to me out of the deeps of space. The love that they promise has helped me remember another time a caring embrace. Dark eyes in the morning, dark eyes in the evening, dark eyes in the starlight at silence, they whisper, come find me. You'll never know true love if you stay. Now I seek them in the winter time, oh, I seek them in the spring. Those two dark eyes draw my heart away to where sun and moon sing. I laugh now in the summertime when ripples on the river play. I laugh soaring with the meadowlarks, love has made my heart gay. I laugh soaring with the meadowlarks, love has made my heart gay. I've known them forever, they've haunted my slumber and called to me out of the deeps of space. The love that they promise has helped me remember another time, a caring embrace. Dark eyes in the morning, dark eyes in the evening, dark eyes in the starlight at end of day. Dark eyes that speak silence, they whisper, come find me. You'll never know true love if you stay. Now I seek them in the winter time, oh, I seek them in the spring. Those two dark eyes draw my heart away to where sun and moon sing. I laugh now in the summertime when ripples on the river play. I laugh soaring with the meadowlarks, love has made my heart gay. I laugh soaring with the meadowlarks, love has made my heart gay. I've known them forever, they've haunted my slumber and called to me out of the deeps of space. The love that they promise has helped me